Home became possible, people started moving to the country for a supposedly freer, easier and cheaper life. Now the trickle appears to have become a flood. And to crunch some numbers, we're joined by Dr. Andrew Wilson, Chief Economist with My Housing Market. Dr. Wilson, good afternoon to you. You've called them COVID refugees. What sort of movement are we seeing throughout the state?
Well, we're certainly seeing a movement over the last 12 months, Lizzie. We've seen the migration out of Sydney, the net migration into New South Wales regions increasing by 25% over the year. And I think that that's really the tip of the iceberg, given that we are, of course, unfortunately, back in lockdown now. And I think that'll only encourage more people to take that regional option in New South Wales. And we have seen that in other states and cities. There's been a flow out of Melbourne, particularly into southeast Queensland. Of course, it's had more of those shutdown experiences, and we know that is really a motivating factor to leave home and perhaps search for somewhere safer.
Yeah, a tree change or a sea change sounds pretty appealing. Where in New South Wales are the city folk heading to?
Well, it's interesting, Lizzie, when we look at the numbers, it seems to be those usual favourite spots next to the coast. When we look at the areas where we've had the most significant price increases over the last 6 months, I think that gives us a guide to where the numbers are moving. And we do look at areas such as the Shoalhaven LGA to the south, Port Macquarie, Lake Macquarie to the north, the Tweed at the far north, and a little closer in Wollongong and Newcastle have all registered very strong prices growth over the past 6 months. And I think that really is an indication of increased demand and, perhaps the rise of the COVID refugee.
Oh, absolutely. Andrew, there are some things worth keeping in mind, though, about people wanting life in a regional area. Run us through them.
Well, look, certainly it's a little easier, I guess, to move to the regions in terms of work, because we do have the work from home environment affecting just about all of us now. But there are some, some considerations that we must have, and that is the level of infrastructure. Big cities have top-level infrastructure, and of course that's where they're primarily better than regional areas. And we're talking about hospitals, medical, recreation and education. And I think these are considerations that those that are considering moving out of the big cities, moving out of Sydney, have to take account of. And of course there is the dislocation from family and friends as well. But there's no doubt that there's a rise in the tide from people wanting to, I guess, escape the shutdowns, and that'll only be, I believe, accelerated over the next year or so.
Always worth keeping in mind. Dr. Wilson, thank you so much for your time this afternoon.
Thank you very much, Lizzie.
A man who's fighting for his life after